All right, everybody. Now that we've finished our little dilemma, there's a little lecture about, and you guys need to take notes, okay? You don't need to put phones away. That's for when I do this in class. But you definitely want to have your notebook out and a pen or pencil out to take some notes. We are about to do a lecture on what was that whole ethical dilemma all about and how we're going to apply this to Antigone, okay? All right, here we go. So, what we're going to do is that whole scenario of the Heinz dilemma, right, is done by this guy named Lawrence Kohlberg. And I'm going to be telling you about what his theory was on how we develop as moral beings, okay? Kohlberg's theory of moral development. And your answers are going to say different things about what level of development you may or may not be in, okay? Now, keep in mind, he's going to have 6 stages here of moral development, right? The lower stages of morality, of how they would answer the Heinz question about what's the right thing to do, steal it or not, is elementary school age kids, okay? The middle stages are most people. Most people never get beyond stage 3 or 4, the middle stages. The highest 2 levels of ethical development are not reached by most people. These are really hard to be this morally consistent and brave, okay? So, let's start taking notes. So stage 1, write this down. This is punishment and obedience, or avoiding punishment is the name of this lowest level. This is somebody who does stuff out of self-centered goals. They decide, I'm going to do this because of wanting to not get into trouble. I don't want to get into trouble. I don't want daddy to get mad at me or mommy to take my phone away or whatever, right? Or fear of some kind of punishment. So you are obedient to power out of fear of some kind of punishment or fear of someone getting mad at you, okay? And this is how they would answer the question about the stealing the drug. Heinz should not steal the drug. What's the point of risking going to jail? He might not even get the drug to save his wife. It's not even a question of duty. I wouldn't steal it from my wife. I'd steal it to save myself as long as I know for sure I wouldn't get caught. Okay, so this is someone who's, I'm not stealing for anybody. I'm too scared. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to get in trouble. And who's to say it even works, this medication? I might not even be able to give it to her, you know, so what is the point? I would only steal it for me if I really was going to die because I'm scared of dying. Okay, so this is someone who's got self-centered goals. It's a little kid. They're just afraid of getting, you know, in trouble. Okay, stage 2 is self-protective, okay, or self-interested. So again, the right behavior means acting in your own self-interest. So it's a lot like level 1, but you're a little more brave. So that's why it's considered a little bit higher of a level. You would help another person if and only if it benefited you in some way, right? If you got something out of it, like fame, fortune, you know, it made you feel good, you got something out of it, right? So this is something like what someone in level 2 would say. Heinz should not steal the drug. It's not his duty. He'd go to jail and then he wouldn't get anything out of it, and neither would his wife, right? Because if he couldn't get the drug to her, what was the point? And I don't get anything out of it because I'm in jail, right? I wouldn't steal from my wife unless she was, you know, really good cook and a pretty lady, right? I'd steal it from me though, totally. But if I don't get anything out of it, I'm not doing it. So it's all about me. I need to get some benefit. So this is someone who is willing to get yelled at, get into trouble, willing to go to jail, as long as they felt they got an overall benefit out of it. So you have to understand, these lower 2 levels are all about self-preservation and self-interest. It's about, the level 1 is, I don't want to get into trouble. And level 2 is like, well, I might get into trouble if I get something that I find valuable out of it, like, you know, depending on the situation here, right? So those are the lower 2. These are that's little kid ethical thinking, this kind of totally self-absorbed center of the universe. What about me? Not really having the ability to think beyond the self to do anything, okay? All right, now stage 3 and 4, these are the ones that are most people. And this is what I would say stage 3 is the most of most people, okay? Conformist is the hardest stage of moral development to get out of. And it's also out of fear. Fear of not fitting in, fear of being judged badly by others. Okay, so it's not so much the punishment of the law, it's about not being judged as a good person. Like, oh, I would steal it because I want people to think I'm a good person. But it's not because you care about the person as much. It's about you want to look like you're a good person, okay? So this is someone who's conforming. They're doing something because they want to conform to societal roles. It's like Emmett at the beginning of Lego the movie, if you've ever seen that. He's so concerned about following what his society tells him with his little manual of this is how you do this is how you do that. You're just a super conformist. You want to be accepted by whatever group it is you're wanting to be accepted by. So if you were the group that thought that, it's noble and good to steal the drug, you would do that because you want them to judge you as a good person, okay? You want to be seen as like a nice person, okay? Or a good person, or a good wife, or a good husband, or like a, whatever it is. You want this positive label, whatever the category of the dilemma is about. Because not everything is about being good or nice necessarily. It is also known as like good boy attitude, but it's more about like you want positive approval of others. So you're doing something to conform to the beliefs of others. You are not doing something because you think it's the right thing to do. Okay? So you're not really being your own person. So that's not very morally mature. Okay? What matters in this is that you think about what other people think, and that's what you do. You care about that external validation. And this is what they would say. Heinz should totally steal the drug because she's his wife. It's wrong, but it's his duty as a husband. The role of being a husband, to be a good husband, you should do it. A stranger should have his own family steal it for him because it's their duty or their role as a good family member. So this is someone that is willing to steal it, so they're higher up, right? Level 1 and 2, they're not willing to steal it unless they get something out of it, right? This one's more like, I'll do the right thing because I feel peer pressure, societal pressure to do this thing. But it's not because I believe it's right. It's because it's my duty as the label, the societally created label of husband, in air quotes, right? All right, so I hope that makes sense. And this is most people. This is really hard to get out of not caring what other people think and conforming your world based on other people's beliefs and you wanting to be thought of as good or popular or whatever, just to be liked. Okay, so, all right. Stage 4 is law and order. Law and order is about you think everybody is duty-bound to follow the established rules for the sake of the law and order. This is someone who, cares very much about this kind. It's kind of like a black and white thinking about like, look, it's your duty to follow the law. You are a citizen of this society, whatever it is, you need to follow the law. So are they going to steal it? Nope. But if you did, you would totally face punishment because you broke the law, because for you what matters is the law says it's wrong, then it's wrong. Okay, so it's still related to the good boy attitude or the conformist level because it's about what other people say. You are taking the law as being this thing that you should uphold, but are they your laws or are they the law of society? Kohlberg thought it is more immature morally to just follow the law because it's the law rather than shaping your own ideas about what's right. So again, you're still a follower, okay? And that's why it's not the highest level of morality, because you're not really following your own code, you're following somebody else's code. And this is what they would do. Heinz shouldn't steal the drug. It's illegal. It's not his duty to break the law. Maybe I'd do it for my wife, but I'd know the consequences. I wouldn't break the law, though, to save myself. Because what if everybody started breaking law? It'd be chaos. That'd be the end of society. It's my duty to follow the law. I need to follow the law. Now, these people, they definitely have at least a belief of their own in that they believe the law is right. So it is a kind of, it's stronger than level 3 where it's like you don't even really have an opinion. This one, though, is like a dogmatic opinion. Dogmatic means like you don't really question things. If you're not willing to question and question laws, like what if they're messed up? What if they're immoral, right? This for people that can't get beyond that. You're not considered the highest level of morality, okay? But at least it is your own belief system that you've kind of like decided to follow in a way, even though, yes, you didn't make the laws. However, you're still just following somebody else's code that you have internalized. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but if you're not willing to question the law when things seem wrong, that's a problem. That's why you wouldn't be in the higher levels, okay? So I would say that a lot of people are not in this. Maybe military and police might fall into this because it's a big part of that culture, right, of law and order. But even soldiers are told don't follow illegal orders if you feel but you have to follow them even if you think they're wrong, or you get in big trouble. It's only if they're actually illegal. So soldiers are kind of forced to be in this level, even if their heart's somewhere else. Okay, now these higher two, okay? The highest ones, social contract and universal principle. These ones are the highest levels that most people never get to, at least not consistently, okay? Now, I do want to say this. Almost nobody is one stage and they stay there. I think a lot of us kind of bounce in between things, depending on context. So what matters here is where are they the most, right? Because, we have bad days when we were tired and we're being a little more self-interested, and other days we're really good at, being brave, and context depends, But if this is where you mostly derive your moral thinking, you're high up there. And this one's called social contract, which that should make sense to a lot of you guys since you were studying social contract. And this is about look, established laws can be wrong, and they can be changed to better serve the people, the majority beyond the law. What is right is an agreement between a large number of people, and that law can change depending on the needs. And as we notice, laws not working, right? It's about we agree to these laws until they don't work for us anymore, and then we can change them. So laws are still important. That's why it's right next to law and order, right? But they are not in and of themselves necessarily 100% good in all contexts. So this is more of a malleable position where you're like, okay, the law is important, but when laws are messed up, we need to work to change those laws. Sometimes that means civil disobedience. Sometimes that means joining the law to help change the law, like being, a member of government or voting and, or protesting, that kind of stuff, okay? And so someone under social contract would say this: Heinz should steal the drug if he loves his wife, even though it's illegal. It's not his duty to do it, but he should do it if he loves her and because she needs it. He should steal for his best friend too, if he's willing to sacrifice his freedom for their friend. Heinz broke the law, but life is more important than the law. He should work to change the law, right? Through protest or becoming part of government or whatever, right? So this is someone that you should totally steal it for your wife if you love her, right? Steal it for your friend if you're willing to go through the consequences, right? Life's more important. And you should work to change the law. So these are, it's still taking the other people's ideas of the law into consideration and following them, but being able to question them. That's why it's different than law and order, because that's like unquestioning obedience to the law, right? What you want is someone who's, in social contract, someone who's thinking about that and thinking what's the greater good for the greatest number of people, and try to shape the law to help the most people in the best way possible. Okay. All right. Now stage 6, almost no one gets here. All right. And that's universal ethical principles. And this is where behavior is based on universal moral principles that are consistent and just for all decisions based on a universal principles which may transgress established societal laws and rules. Now, what does that mean? That means, look, you have come to your own decision through life, through logic, through experience, and decided, okay, this is what's morally correct or not correct. And I can't make exceptions for myself. That's what universal means. It applies to all people, right? So if I've come through my reasoning that lying is wrong, that means it's wrong always in any situation that you've decided that it's wrong, and you can't make exceptions for yourself. That would be selfish. If you've decided it's wrong, you cannot lie, and you need to hold other people accountable for not lying. So it's kind of like you're making your own morality for the world. You're universalizing it for everyone, and also you can't get out of it because it makes you don't benefit out of it, right? So if you've decided that this is unjust, right, then you can't make an exception for yourself to get out of something, right? So if you say, yeah, it's wrong to steal movie tickets, because what would happen if everybody stole movie tickets? There'd be no more movie theaters, right? If I just snuck into a theater, and didn't have a ticket that I bought, if everybody did that, then there'd be no theaters, and then nobody could enjoy movies. So I guess I can't steal and sneak in to a movie theater to watch a movie because it would harm people. It would harm the people that make the movies. They couldn't have the money to then, all those jobs would be lost, and then I would be unfair to the people that own the the theaters themselves, right? And all the employees that they employ. And so, so I guess I can't, even if I really want to, and I don't have the money to see the movie, I have to be consistent. I can't be a hypocrite. I can't sneak into that movie, right? That's that kind of thinking of the universal ethical principles, right? And this is what they would say. Someone at this level: Heinz should steal the drug. Human life is more important than society's law. It's not a husband's duty, but he should do it for love, caring, and reverence for life. He should do it for his best friend, or even for a stranger for the same reasons. That person's a human being out of a kind of a decent love of mankind. Even if it's not a deep connection, romantic love, you should do it. If nobody else could do it, right? You should do it. Heinz must accept society's punishment. He knew going into it that he was breaking the law, but you're going to do it nevertheless because it's right. It's the right thing to do, no matter the consequences for myself in that situation. Okay? Within reason, right? Like, it's not saying, you should die to steal the drug, but, in the scenario we were given, that's what Lawrence Kohlberg would say is the answer for that highest principle. So this is someone who's consistent, wouldn't just do it for some kind of personal benefit because they love them and they want them to be around. They get some benefit of not being lonely. They can't cower, right, and be cowardly because they're afraid of going to jail. They have to do it because it's the right thing, and for anybody that was in need, if you were the only person that can do it, right? So that's hard to do. That takes bravery and intellectual consistency. That's really hard. A lot of us tend to wuss out and get scared for ourselves, right? So that's a hard thing to do. So, not that you have to answer it here, but where are you, right? From your answers, where are you at? Does that mean you're stuck there? No. Is Lawrence Kohlberg necessarily right? No, right? This is a theory. You could totally disagree with this, but we're going to use this as a vehicle to analyze the story Antigone, okay? We're going to be looking at this play, reading it and watching it and debating it through his theory of this moral development, okay? There are 6 main characters, and we're going to be looking at those 6 main characters and try to figure out where do these characters belong on Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development, and how can you tell? The play is so perfect for fitting into this, right? It's great, even though Lawrence Kohlberg did not come up with this theory until over 2,000 years after the play was written. So this is not something that Sophocles put in his thing on purpose. This is just something Kohlberg noticed in humanity in general. And it's interesting that Antigone's play has characters on all these different levels of moral development. So it just works out perfectly. But the issue is who belongs where. That's up for you to figure out and to tell me. You guys are going to be debating in class who belongs where, and you guys are going to run it as we watch and debate, and you're going to write notes on the script about, this is like, you're going to highlight stuff and say, that could be level 2 or that could be level 5, right? Right. And so that's what we're going to be doing, okay? And so we're going to be applying that to Antigone, okay? And so you're going to use your notes that you took here. And while we're watching the play, to take a timed in-class paragraph test. And I will give you an example of a paragraph using Piggy. Where would Piggy belong, right? So you can kind of see how to write the paragraphs, how I want you to write them. And I'll give you an outline so you know what it is. You get a nice, fat, argumentative paragraph that's got a really strong counter-argument or rebuttal in there. So you can kind of see how that works, okay? And you are to respond in the form of not an essay, it's paragraphs, as I said, okay? It's a paragraph for each of the characters, okay? And it's 120 points. So it's even more than an essay because it's 6 fat paragraphs. So that is like a big essay, right? That's like, it's worth more than just a typical essay, okay? Each has up to 20 points, okay, depending on how well you do for each of them. And your task is going to be to discuss each of those 6 major characters: Antigone, Creon, Ismene, the Sentry, Haman, and Eurydice. Where do they belong? Okay, and those are the 6 characters that we're going to be looking at. And the Sentry is also known as a soldier. It's just another name for a soldier. Okay, and as I said, you're going to run the show. I'm just going to sit at my desk, and we're going to have student leaders run the board. I'm going to have it all set up for you guys to take notes. And you're going to tell me when to pause or rewind or to let us argue who belongs in what category and why. Are any of them going to fit absolutely perfectly all the time? No, because they're based off human beings, not real people maybe, but like The reason why this story works is because this is how people do kind of think and act, in ways, right? If they were in a similar situation, okay? And so where are they mostly? Where do the characters belong the best, okay? Some people might grow, some people might regress, but where are they the best, the most, okay? And you only get one chance to ask me if you're right. So out of those 6 characters, you're going to have a chart on the wall, and you're going to say, okay, we think this character belongs here, 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 here. And you can only ask me once. You got to make sure you guys really argue it out. And the purpose of that, you guys, is to help you guys really get independent thinking for yourselves. And I want you guys to be able to really work on fully organizing your thoughts as to what you think and why you think it. So it's to prepare you for those paragraphs. Okay, so the more you talk and the more you delve into arguments and counter arguments, the better it's going to be for you. Now, when we start, you are not allowed to tell other periods who belongs to what level that you guys have argued. Let them do that for themselves. That is for them. If I find out you guys are talking to each other and giving answers, especially when we get to the end, and you guys ask me, and if you get it right and you tell the other classes before they get a chance to finish their thinking, that's not cool, man. You are stealing from them. And I will get really mad. Oh, it's an old slide. It used to be Mr. Ayers was my partner. Now it's Mr. Bixler. So if you even talk to Mr. Bixler's kids, right, or kids from last year and try to get answers, you're stealing from yourself and you're stealing from other students, and that's not very moral. And we're talking about morality here, so please don't do that. Because remember, it's about the process, not about the product, okay? The wiggling, the squirming is the good stuff, right? We're going to be arguing. And if I find out, I will give you a referral because that's not cool, okay? Just let them enjoy. Let them puzzle through. Let them figure it out. It's like that, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, feed him for life. That's what I want you guys to do, okay? So, and you guys are going to be reading the play at home before the viewings, hopefully, so that you're kind of familiar with it because it gets kind of weird. We'll probably get through about a third per day. Maybe it might take 4 days to get through it. Depends on how much you guys debate and argue, okay? But we will watch in class, and you guys can follow along with the script, okay? And so we're going to do a different Ed puzzle on Oedipus. I'm going to make you guys watch because you need it for us to get started on Antigone. Because, I know I've kind of talked about Oedipus, but Antigone, you guys, is a sequel. So you're going to be doing an Ed puzzle on Oedipus, and then I'm going to give you another little Ed puzzle taking notes on the play itself. Okay? So that's it for now. And I can't wait to hear what you guys see. I love this part of the year. I love it. It's amazing what you guys are able to figure out on your own. It's a beautiful thing. Bye-bye.